In the bustling Kaneshie Market area of Accra, two houses stood side by side on a narrow street lined with palm trees. The morning call to prayer from the nearby mosque mixed with the sounds of TRO buses honking and vendors calling out their wares. In these two modest concrete houses lived Mama Akua and Auntie Abina, two women whose friendship had weathered 20 years of joy and struggle. Mama Akua sold fresh fish at Kaneshie Market every morning before dawn. Her hands smelled permanently of the sea, and her voice carried the authority of someone who had negotiated with wholesale buyers since she was 16. She was strict with her son Kwame, believing that discipline today meant success tomorrow. "Life is not a game," she would tell him. "You must work hard for everything." Auntie Abina, meanwhile, ran a small provisions shop attached to her house. She sold everything from Maggi cubes to school supplies, and her gentle nature made her the neighborhood's unofficial counselor. Unlike her friend, she rarely raised her voice at her daughter Akua, preferring to guide with patience and understanding. "Children learn better when they feel loved, not afraid," she often said. Both women were single mothers. Mama Akojua's husband had left for Europe when Kwame was 3, promising to send for them but never returning. Auntie Abina's husband had died in a car accident on the Tima motorway 5 years ago, leaving her to raise Akua alone. Despite their different parenting styles, their children were inseparable. Kwame and Akua, both 13 years old, had grown up together like twins. They walked to Kaneshie Methodist School together every morning, shared lunch money when one forgot theirs, and spent afternoons doing homework under the big mango tree in their shared compound. Kwame was the more serious one, always worried about his grades and making his mother proud. Akua was the dreamer, sketching in the margins of her exercise books and making up stories about the people who passed by their street. One evening during Harmattan season, when the dry wind carried dust that made everything hazy, Kwame sat at the plastic table where they ate dinner. The single bulb hanging from the ceiling cast long shadows as Mama Akojua served banku and okra stew. "Mama," Kwame began, his voice uncertain. "What is it, my son?" I want a smartphone." Mama Akojua's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. She looked at her son, seeing how his eyes avoided hers. "A smartphone? Kwame, do you think I am made of money? Do you see how hard I work every day, coming home smelling like fish?" "But Mama, almost everyone in my class has one now. Even Kofi, whose father is just a taxi driver. They use them for research projects, and the teachers sometimes send assignments through WhatsApp. I feel left out." "Left out?" Mama Akojua set down her spoon. "When I was your age, we didn't even have electricity in our village. We studied by kerosene lamp." "I know, Mama, but times are different now. Please. I'm not asking for an iPhone like the rich kids. Just a simple smartphone." Mama Akojua studied her son's face. At 13, Kwame was already showing signs of the man he would become. His voice was changing and he had grown taller than her just last month. Maybe it was time to trust him with more responsibility. "Listen carefully, Kwame. If you can come first in your class this term, I will buy you a smartphone. But only if you earn it. And it will be the only expensive thing I buy you for a very long time." Kwame's face lit up like the lights on Labadi Beach during festival season. "Really, Mama? You promise?" "I promise. But remember, first position. Nothing less." From that day, Kwame studied with an intensity that amazed everyone. He woke up at 4 a.m. to read by the light of their small television. He asked Akua to quiz him during their lunch breaks. He even gave up playing football with the other boys after school, spending those hours instead reviewing notes under the mango tree. "You're really serious about this phone?" Akua teased him one afternoon as he declined her invitation to watch a movie at the local video center. "I have to be. My mama works so hard and I want to make her proud. Besides, once I get it, we can both use it. We can finally watch those YouTube videos everyone talks about. You know I'll help you study, right? We're going to get you that phone." When the term ended in December, just as the Harmattan winds were at their strongest, Kwame ran home from school with his report card clutched in his sweaty palm. He burst through their front door to find Mama Akojua counting the day's earnings at the kitchen table. Mama, look. She took the report card with hands still smelling of fish and soap. Her eyes scanned the grades and slowly, a smile spread across her tired face. Position 1 out of 45 students, she read aloud. Kwame, I am so proud of you. She stood up and hugged him tight, and for a moment, Kwame felt like he was still a small boy seeking comfort after a nightmare. But when she pulled away, her expression was serious. I keep my promises, my son. Tomorrow we go to Accra Mall. The next day, mother and son took a tiro to Accra Mall, where Mama Akua spent 2 months' worth of savings on a Samsung smartphone. It wasn't the latest model, but to Kwame, it might as well have been made of gold. The screen was bright and clear, the camera took photos that looked like magic, and it could connect to the internet through their neighbor's Wi-Fi password that Akua had cleverly discovered. Thank you, Mama. I will use it wisely, I promise. I trust you, Kwame. But remember, this phone is a tool, not a toy. Use it to learn, to improve yourself. When they returned home, Akua was waiting in the compound, having heard the good news from her mother. She squealed with excitement when she saw the phone. Let's set it up. Let's download WhatsApp. And YouTube. And games. They spent the first week exploring the phone like archaeologists discovering treasure. They downloaded educational apps that helped with mathematics and science. They watched documentaries about animals and countries they had only read about in geography books. They video called Kwame's cousin in Kumasi, marveling at how they could see each other across the miles. Everything was innocent and wonderful. The phone seemed to be exactly what Kwame had promised, a tool for learning and connection. But phones, like doors, can open in directions you never intended. One afternoon in January, when the harmattan dust made the air thick and both mothers were busy at their respective jobs, Kwame was scrolling through the phone's gallery when he noticed a folder he hadn't seen before. It had been there since he bought the phone, but he had been too focused on the apps to notice. Adult content, the folder was labeled. Akua, look at this. There's a folder here I didn't create. Akua, who had been sketching in her notebook, looked over. What do you think is in it? I don't know. Should we check? They looked at each other with the curiosity that has driven 13-year-olds to make both great discoveries and terrible mistakes since the beginning of time. Kwame tapped on the folder. The first video that opened showed adults in ways they had never seen before. Not in the romantic fairy tale way they had seen in Ghanaian movies, but in ways that seemed raw and confusing and somehow both fascinating and wrong at the same time. They watched in silence, neither fully understanding what they were seeing but both unable to look away. What are they doing? Akua whispered. I think this is what married people do, Kwame replied, though his voice carried uncertainty. They closed the video quickly when they heard footsteps outside, hearts pounding as if they had just stolen from the church collection box. We shouldn't tell anyone about this, Kwame said. No, Akua agreed. This is just between us. But secrets, especially the kind that make your heart race and your palms sweat, have a way of growing in the dark. Over the following weeks, whenever both mothers were away, they found themselves returning to that folder. They told themselves they were just trying to understand, just satisfying curiosity. But with each video, their innocence chipped away like paint peeling off a wall in the rainy season. The laughter that used to fill their compound grew quieter. Their homework sessions became distracted affairs. When Mama Akua asked Kwame about his day, his answers became shorter, his eyes avoiding hers in a way that reminded her painfully of how his father used to act when he was hiding something. You're different these days, Auntie Abina mentioned to Akua one evening as they prepared palm nut soup together. Different how, Mama? Quieter. Less bright. Are you having problems at school? No, Mama. Everything is fine. But everything was not fine. Kwame and Akua had begun to see each other differently. The easy friendship of childhood was being replaced by something confusing and electric. When their hands touched while sharing the phone, they felt jolts they didn't understand. When they sat together under the mango tree, the space between them seemed charged with possibility and danger. One afternoon in February, when the harmattan was finally giving way to the approaching heat of the dry season, they went further than they ever had. What started as playful imitation of what they had seen on the screen became something more serious, more real. It ended with Akua running home in tears and Kwame sitting alone under the mango tree, understanding for the first time that some doors, once opened, change everything behind them. For 3 days Akua avoided him. She walked to school a different route, ate lunch with other friends, and when their mothers asked why they weren't playing together, she made excuses about being busy with a school project. Kwame felt terrible. Sleep escaped him like water through a cracked calabash. He kept replaying those moments, understanding now that what they had done crossed a line they weren't supposed to cross. Finally, on the 4th day, he approached her during their lunch break. "Akua, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for things to go so far." She looked up from her kenki and stew, her eyes red-rimmed. "I know. I'm sorry too. Let's just pretend it never happened, okay?" "Okay." They tried to return to normal, but normal was a place they could no longer find. The easy comfort of their childhood friendship had been replaced by awkwardness and unspoken tension. They still did homework together, but conversations felt forced. They still shared lunch, but the silences stretched longer. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. Akua approached Kwame after school with a look in her eyes that made his stomach flutter with anxiety and anticipation. "Kwame, I've been thinking about what happened. Maybe we should try again." Kwame stared at her. "Try again? But you said." "I know what I said. But I keep thinking about it. About us. Don't you?" He did. The images from the phone mixed with memories of that afternoon in ways that made his teenage mind spin with confusion and desire. "I don't know, Akua. Last time you got hurt. And scared. This time will be different. I know what to expect now." The next Thursday, both mothers had a meeting at the church about organizing a fundraiser for the pastor's wife, who needed surgery. They would be gone for hours. Kwame and Akua found themselves alone in the compound as the afternoon sun cast long shadows through the palm fronds. They went to Kwame's room and locked the door, something they had never done in all their years of friendship. But just as they were about to cross that line again, they heard the metal gate creak open. Footsteps on the concrete. "Kwame, why is this door locked?" Mama Akojua's voice cut through the afternoon air like a cutlass through sugar cane. Panic seized them both. They scrambled to arrange their clothes to look normal, to pretend they were just studying. But 13-year-olds are poor liars, especially when caught in circumstances that make guilt write itself across their faces. Kwame opened the door with shaking hands. Mama Akojua and Auntie Abina stood there, having returned early from their meeting. One look at the children's faces, at the nervous energy filling the small room, at the way they couldn't meet their mother's eyes, told them everything they needed to know. "What is going on here?" Auntie Abina asked, her gentle voice carrying a steel that Akua had rarely heard. Silence stretched between them like a taut rope ready to snap. Then Kwame broke. The weight of weeks of secrets, of confusion, of guilt, came pouring out in tears and words that tumbled over each other. He told them about the folder on the phone, about the videos, about what they had been watching, about what they had tried to do. Both mothers stood frozen, watching their children confess to crossing boundaries they were too young to even understand. Mama Akojua sank into the plastic chair by Kwame's bed. "How did I not see this? How did I not know?" Auntie Abina placed a hand on her friend's shoulder. "We were working. We were trying to provide for them. We thought giving them freedom was the same as giving them love. But they didn't shout. They didn't beat the children, though their hearts were breaking. They recognized that their children were victims of their own curiosity and a technology that had outpaced their wisdom." That evening, after many tears and difficult conversations, both families sat together under the mango tree that had witnessed so much of Kwame and Akua's childhood. "We are going to get help," Mama Akojua said. "For all of us." They found a counselor in OSU, a woman who specialized in helping families navigate the complexities of raising children in the digital age. The sessions were hard. There were more tears, difficult questions, and moments when everyone wanted to pretend none of this had happened. But slowly, understanding began to replace confusion. Kwame and Akua learned about appropriate boundaries, about the difference between curiosity and action, about how the things they had seen on the phone were not realistic portrayals of healthy relationships. Their mothers learned too, about the importance of digital literacy, about having conversations they had been too embarrassed to have, about the difference between trust and oversight. The smartphone got new rules. No locked doors when it was being used. Regular checks of browsing history. Most importantly, open conversations about what they encountered online, no matter how uncomfortable those conversations might be. Months passed. The harmattan came and went again. Kwame and Akua's friendship slowly healed, though it was different now, more careful, more aware, but also more genuine. They learned to talk about things that embarrassed them, to ask questions instead of making assumptions, to respect boundaries they were still learning to understand. Mama Akua started attending a support group for single mothers, where she learned that her experience was not unique, that many parents were struggling to protect their children in a digital world they didn't fully understand themselves. Auntie Abina began having regular conversations with Akua about growing up, about relationships, about the difference between what you see in videos and what healthy love actually looks like. By the time the next school term began, both children were performing better academically and seemed lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from their shoulders. One evening, as they sat under the mango tree doing homework, Akua looked up from her mathematics exercise. "Kwame?" "Yes." "I'm glad we got caught." He considered this for a moment. "Me too. I was scared we were going to ruin everything." "We almost did. But we didn't." The compound gradually came back to life. Children's laughter returned. The easy rhythm of their neighborhood friendship resumed, but with wisdom earned through difficulty.